Hello, all. I am Jerry Rothkoff, managing attorney at Rothkoff Law Group, an elder care law firm serving clients, seniors, and their families in both Pennsylvania and New Jersey. We are privileged to have today John Freitag, who is the Director of Sales and Marketing. And your official title, I'm sorry, John, would be what?
Business Development Director with All-American Hospice. Thanks,
There
Jerry.
you go. Business Development Director, All-American Hospice. It's a pleasure having you. John, I'm really impressed what you've done and doing things differently than others on social media. And you interviewed me via Zoom last month, and I thought I would return the favor to find out what you've been up to.
Thanks,
So tell us a little about All-American Hospice, the services specifically provided, and the territory that you cover, John,
Sure.
and your company.
Sure, thank you. And thank you, Jerry, for having me on. I love everything that you guys are doing as well. So, keep up the great work innovating.
Feelings mutual.
Thank you. So All-American Hospice, we're in Philly, Bucks, Montgomery County primarily, over in Pennsylvania. We're licensed in Delaware County and Chester County as well, but our primary area is, Philly, Bucks, and Montco. Hospice is end-of-life services for someone who has a terminal diagnosis, and the best course of action is to keep the person comfortable. So hospice comes in, nurses, aides, social workers, keeps the person comfortable at their home, at the nursing home, at the assisted living, wherever the person calls home.
And the territory you're serving would be what?
Philadelphia, Bucks, and Montgomery County, Pennsylvania.
And so tell me, how did you get involved working with healthcare, specifically hospice in general? What attracts you to this field?
Sure, and I know we don't have all day, but I'll give you the brief background, the cliff notes. So I started actually in high school in dietary. Loved spending time with the people working there, with the residents there. Went into social work after college, sort of fell into that. I was actually a criminal justice major, and I knew so many people at the nursing home. There was a social work position open, so I went there. Was in social work for a number of years, and then moved into admissions and business development, and eventually into hospice. I love working with older adults. I love just the hospice and healthcare fields in general, because I feel like there's the most caring individuals who work in it. So I like networking with other people and just working in this field and helping people, meeting with the families and getting them all the care that they need.
So how did you get involved specifically with hospice?
With hospice? Mike, my boss, the owner of All-American Hospice, I knew him when he first started the company. He would come to me as when I was a social worker and market, the hospice to me. When I went into business development and I was an external liaison at a facility, he heard that I was out there and he recruited me to come work with him. I didn't really know tons about hospice, referring to hospice. So he taught me everything about what the benefits were. And, I thought it was something great that I would love to help people with. So that's how I got into hospice specifically.
What do you enjoy most about hospice and serving the needs of your families?
So what I enjoy most is about getting them the support they need. So when we have, say, like a family member who really wants to keep a patient at home, they've been bouncing back and forth from the hospital and they just want to keep them comfortable at home. They don't want to at a nursing facility. Hospice is able to get there into the house. We can provide all the equipment, provide all the services, the nurses, the aides, everyone comes to them. The family's still the primary caregiver, but we're there to support them. So we could have aides in there, almost every single day, keeping the person comfortable at home, and they're not bouncing back and forth to the hospital. They're able to spend time with their family before they pass away.
Well, there are a lot of misconceptions involving hospice. I'm sure you hear them all the time. We hear it with our clients and their families. I don't want to be on hospice. That's a death sentence. They're going to pull the plug. That hospice is not for me. Right. Can you help dispel some of those misconceptions or myths related to hospice? And really, can you touch upon the real value that hospice offers?
Sure, yeah, and I think some of the myths are sort of self-perpetuating. Lots of times doctors refer when it's way too late. So people only see that someone's on hospice for a few days, where you could be on hospice for a long time. The hospice benefit actually consists of two 90-day benefit periods, then unlimited 60-day benefit periods. So what that means is, as long as the person's appropriate, they're still declining, they're having end-stage diagnosis, they can be on hospice for as long as they need. Another myth that I hear is that once hospice comes in, we discontinue all the medicine. Um, Hospice, the nurse looks at all the meds that the person's on, sees what's appropriate, what isn't, talks to the patient, talks to the family, and finds out, you know, what's appropriate, so they can discontinue things that aren't appropriate. But we're not going in and just hacking everything, stopping all the meds. That's one of the bigger things. What's another one? That hospice speeds up, that hospice, expedites the dying process, and that's definitely not the case. There can be people on hospice. I've seen people on hospice for a year, so no one's going in there and trying to speed anything up. We're just there to keep people comfortable.
Let's talk issues related to COVID-19 and hospice. What are some of the biggest challenges all American Hospice has faced in relation to providing continued quality service for your patients?
Sure. So one of the immediate outcomes from COVID-19 was a lot of nursing homes and assisted livings, rightfully so, being scared to let outsiders in. So they were having difficulty letting nurses in. They didn't want to let aides in. They're not letting families in. So first we had to overcome that, get our nurses in there, assure them that we're able to take care of people safely. We're not going to be, hopefully not going to be getting anyone sick by bringing anyone, any COVID-19 in. So that was the first hurdle. The second one, and I think we're still overcoming it, is that so people are still dying, right? So people are still getting sick. It's not just COVID-19. There's other things, chronic heart failure, end-stage renal. There's tons of different diseases, right? That's still happening. But COVID-19 is in the forefront of everyone's mind. So they're referring to hospice pretty late, when it's just like at the end. So people are getting a lot less hospice than they really deserve. They're getting on there. Our length of stays have been much, much shorter because people are just waiting until it's the very last minute to refer to hospice. Pre-COVID-19, they weren't as rushed. There wasn't as much going on in the nursing homes, so they were able to recognize the need earlier and refer sooner.
Right now, one of the big issues is related, as you mentioned, visitation bans in assisted living and nursing homes. And unfortunately, it appears that ban on visitation for people like you and I, John, non-healthcare providers, so to speak, is probably going to be the last of the restrictions to be lifted due to the obviously vulnerable populations that live in these communities, unfortunately. There is an exception for compassionate care under CDC guidelines currently that you're aware of. Obviously, that would apply to hospice and end of life. So your hospice, the hospice nurses are permitted in with proper PPE, I assume, correct?
Right. The direct care providers, the nurses, the social workers have been going into some buildings. The aides, as long as they're wearing their PPE, they're going in there and getting their temperatures taken, whatever the facility has in place. Now the facilities are letting our caregivers in. Families, on the other hand, they're having some difficulty. Spouses, it seems that they're letting in for end of life. Some facilities have been letting in, kids, but it's really on a case-by-case basis. And you guys actually had been instrumental in the beginning of this, helping us get a family into a facility. So thank you there.
You're welcome. We try. So I'm impressed with some of the innovative ideas, because you personally, as you said, cannot get into these communities to meet with the staff to do what you do pre-March of 2020, basically, right, on behalf of All American Hospice. So can you just discuss some of the innovations, some of the, if you want to call it, pivots, so to speak, that you've done with social media, et cetera, that's been successful for you?
Sure. Yeah. Some things that have been successful, and actually, the social media thing, I started pre-COVID, but it didn't take off until March. So my idea was just trying to network all the different facilities together so they could share resources and share ideas. so I've been doing a lot on social media, connecting people there, doing Zoom interviews like these, just trying to stay in front of people and provide some value like you guys are doing. So um, connect people with the resources they need, try to meet up with your referral sources. But a lot of the people that I'm talking to are sort of indirect referral sources, people like yourself that aren't going to be referring consistently, but we can refer to each other. So if we have a family who needs services, we can send them to you. If you guys have a family that you think would be a good fit, you've been sending them to us. So those are the kind of relationships that I'm working on right now, trying to keep everyone connected, trying to help everyone share resources online, on Facebook, doing LinkedIn, and just trying to share, I guess, some education. Been doing hospice education as well. So
Yeah, I see that. Can you, you're, from what I've seen over the past 2 or 3 months, you've turned into a great resource, actually, John.
Thank
So
you.
congratulations. That
Thank
job
you.
well done. And now you also have a new venture going on as well, or a new, at least online venture that I recently saw. Can you talk a little about that?
Are you talking the hospice experience?
If that's, yes, I believe that's
Okay.
what it's referring
Yeah.
to.
So this is actually, I just started because I've noticed in the 4 years that I've been in hospice, so many people have misconceptions, like you said. They don't understand what hospice is. Maybe they had a family member who was on hospice, or they know someone. Unless you really work in the healthcare field, you don't really understand what it is. So I thought if I reached out to different people who've either, like I have some hospice patients I've been speaking with, um, people who've had family members on hospice, they're sharing their stories. I want to get some hospice workers as well to share their stories. So then if someone's interested in hospice, they could sign on, they could watch these little videos, see what other people's experiences were, and hopefully it'll make them a little bit more comfortable with the idea of hospice. They'll understand it a little bit more, and it just won't be as scary because they'll understand it more, if that makes sense.
And so the hospice experience is geared to what type of audience?
It'd be geared to anyone who wants to learn more about hospice. So you can be in the healthcare field, and even when I was a social worker, I didn't know the ins and outs of hospice because I wasn't working it. It would be geared towards adult children who possibly have to put their parents on hospice. So anyone who would want to learn more about hospice and see what other people's experiences were, some firsthand experiences.
And when we put this interview on our social media pages, we'll make sure that we have the website for the hospice experience. So as a resource for individuals and families as well. Let's talk about something a little different than what you do in your professional life. What do you like to do for fun?
For fun. Okay, so I have 3 kids, so I spend a lot of time with children. I'm into fixing cars, big projects around the house. So I try to include my kids in those things as well. So we have an old project car that me and the kids work on. We go for cruises. We were just exploring the covered bridges of Bucks County over the past weekend. So those types of things, just spending time with the wife and kids and working on different projects. Always love working with my hands.
So you said, how old are your kids?
7, 5, and 10 months.
Wonderful. So it sounds like that one of the benefits of the so-called quarantine is you get a chance to spend some more quality time with the kids and do some things that you might not normally do.
Yeah, and you know what? I actually feel like I'm working more hours during the day than when I was pre-COVID. Fortunately, we have an office up here in the attic, so I get to separate myself. The kids are doing their stuff downstairs, and then after work, we can go out and enjoy the weather, get out on the weekends. But yeah, trying to, like you see, do as much as I can during the day and get stuff done for hospice, and just spreading the message about it and connecting everyone together.
Wonderful. So it's one of the blessings, I guess, from the COVID experience is, you get you're spending more time, everyone obviously is spending more time with their family and doing things different, doing things that you wouldn't normally do, as you wouldn't be working from home, and although you're probably working harder, maybe you have a little more flex hours, and
Yeah, and
And you're not,
get to grab lunch with the family, which I wouldn't get to do.
right.
You know?
And you're not running from place to place. So you probably save, my guess is potentially 3 or 4 hours during the course of the day by not running, traveling 45 minutes to a networking event or running to and from different long-term care settings or other places where you would have in-person meetings.
Right. The windshield time's definitely down. And then it's just a matter of trying to figure out how to stay in front of people since you can't get to the in-person meetings.
Right.
We, as like the marketers, we're all working from home, but you got to remember everyone else at the facilities, the social workers, the directors of nursing, all the nursing, all the decision makers, the referral sources, they're still at the facility. So you still need to get to them. They're not sitting in front of a computer 9 to 5.
Right. It's interesting because we have two similar types of position, but in the elder care sphere, we have since we have a director of community relations similar to your position for hospice in both Pennsylvania and New Jersey. We have Donna, as you know, in Pennsylvania, and we have Laura in New Jersey. Yeah. And and some people. Well, excuse me.
So they are both great, by the way.
Oh, thank you very much. Much appreciated. And some of my colleagues and saying, well, asked me questions. Well, what are they doing? Because they're not attending senior networking events. They're not going to different communities. And the feedback that I get from both of them, and I have every reason that they're telling the truth, is they're doing more work, just like you said, John, than they ever did pre-March of 2020, because now it takes more time to accomplish some things. They're facilitating Zoom meetings, they're scheduling webinars, and there's more back and forth online communication or conference calls. They have more balls in the air they're juggling.
Yep.
Although they're not running to and from different in-person marketing events or one-on-one meetings, so to speak, they're busier than they ever were from what they tell me, and that's similar to your sentiments.
Yeah, and I think it's a benefit too, because you're not just going with the flow. Like when we pre-COVID, going out to all the facilities, hitting everyone, it was great, but you weren't really thinking outside of the box. So I think this really, pushed us to have to think, to have to develop new programs, new ideas to reach people and to educate them on whatever our field is, whether it be hospice, elder law, home care. It's a real opportunity to grow and to see what you're made of.
Great. All right. Well, wonderful. So keep up the great work.
Thanks.
It's been a pleasure spending a few minutes getting to know you better about what you do, what makes you tick, a little about your family. So keep up the great work, and hopefully we'll be able to see each other in person in the not too distant future.
Thanks, Jerry. I look forward to all the great parties you guys always throw at the different restaurants and stuff. So I look forward.
Well, thank you. Unfortunately, hopefully sometime over the next several months, you'll be able to attend one of those fun events.
Right.
If not, unfortunately, between now and then, it's virtual happy hours.
Sounds good.
All right. Thanks again, John.
All right, bye-bye.